Hey, good morning, everybody. It's good to be live here with the Moms of Master Books this morning. Um, let's see. So this morning we're going to talk about our science curriculum, and what I'm gonna do is just go through a walk through the catalog and try to. There were a lot of different questions that came in, so I'm going to hopefully cover the broad range of those the questions as we go through. If there are more questions, I encourage everybody to post it here. Even after the video is completed, we monitor the video and we'll answer as many questions as we can. So I'm just going to get started. One of the things that's exciting, we have a spring or a summer catalog coming out. Love the picture on this. It's provided by one of the Moms of Master Books. Welcome to our cabin on Instagram. And we should be getting that completed and ready to mail here in about 2 weeks. So that has a couple of the new products and whatnot. But what I'm gonna do is just go through the catalog very quickly and cover all of our science curriculums, what's happening, what's coming out, what we've got to offer, and maybe clear up any questions that somebody may have. If you're here, please comment on the discussion. If there's a curriculum that you've used, question that you have, we're going to give away a free copy of Education Does God Have an Opinion? We're going to pick a number, choose a comment, and send that off to somebody. So be sure to comment for a chance to win Education Does God Have an Opinion? Okay, so first curriculum that is available, the lowest grade would be God's Design for Science. We have a beginner series that's coming out. It's going to be based on the life science, and it's going to be a full year curriculum, and that is being put together right now. So I don't have any pictures or any product to show you yet, but we're definitely that would be for grades kindergarten through second grade. And if you were doing life science, God's Design life science in the upper grades in 3 through 8, you could certainly use that to go alongside of it. It's just a little bit more of a easier to understand, broken down a little bit more for the lower grades. Then leading into God's Design for Life, God's Design for Chemistry, Ecology, God's Design for Heaven and Earth, or God's Design for the Physical World. So the God's Design Science, Master Books has an exclusive edition available only at masterbooks.com. We've taken the God's Design product, we've made it a little simpler. We've put it into 2 books. There's a student book, a teacher book. Our teacher guides have student activity sheet, lesson plans, tests, quizzes, answer keys. Again, why we call this a teacher guide is because there are materials here that you wouldn't necessarily hand to the student. Thus quizzes, exams, and answers to those. As soon as a book has something that wouldn't necessarily go to the student, we call it teacher, because then you would take it and give them what you want to have, student activity sheets, whatever. This is almost like a teacher resource book for teaching the course. All right, so God's Design Science is perfect for grades 3 through 8. It is very hands-on. There's a lot of hands-on activities and whatnot in the course. Definitely fits into our young Earth creation worldview, the value of the human life and the human being set apart in God's creation. And so this would be a solution that you could do for grades 3 through 8. You could do multiple students at one time. And then, of course, if you had students under, like in grades K through second, you could incorporate those as well. Let's see. Sarah, I will talk about general science, chemistry. Hi, Bridget. Hi, Jessica. Lee. Awesome. And Anita. Yes, if you're here, please feel free to comment to win Education Does God Have an Opinion? And if there's something that you have more detailed, I'm going to try to keep up with the questions. We'll see how that goes. All right. So God's Design, definitely a very hands-on approach. It was designed a lot more for a lot of parent-student interaction. With older students, we've actually changed a little bit of this to be a little bit more independent learning. So that's one solution that a family could use. God's Design has been around for a number of years. If you do God's Design review, go to a site like Kathy Duffy, Top 100 Picks, and type in God's Design, you're going to see the review for the core component of the curriculum. It's not necessarily specific to this design because this is an exclusive design only available at Master Books, but you can get a feel for the strengths, the weaknesses, that type of thing for this curriculum. So let's see. Okay. Let's see. Science starters for grades 3 through 8. So science starters originally began with, we had a series of books, say elementary chemistry. We're talking about matter. It had a teacher's guide, a student journal, and then what would equate to kind of the student textbook, so to speak. This is very hands-on, experiment-based. It uses household common items. Not all the items are as common as what they would have been years ago, but they're not hard to come by. So the majority of them you can have access to. We didn't feel that this was the equivalent of 1 year's worth of material. And so what we did is we took 2 of them and combined them. So this particular course would be the matter course, the chemistry, and the energy course. And so the science starters course would be elementary chemistry and physics. And the easiest way to do the course is to use the teacher guide. The teacher guide essentially has a lesson plan. It's done 2 days a week. Investigation number 1, the physical side of chemicals. Read pages 4 to 7 in the matter book, complete pages S4 in the student journal. And so as long as you follow the lesson plan, or you could do 2 days a week, you could double it up, you could simplify it, whatever works for your family. But essentially this would give you the basics to put together a science course. Okay, so let me just talk about a little bit on labs and hands-on activities and stuff like that. In a lot of families, large families, families that are busy, families that have a little bit of an intimidation factor or whatnot, labs are a friction point in homeschool. What's a friction point? So a friction point is anything that kind of causes us that anxiety or begins to cause tension in the school. I feel the pressure that I need to do these experiments. And so because of that, what happens is we go through the course, we do 1 to 2 experiments the first week of school, then it gets fewer and fewer. And then at the end, it feels like the curriculum didn't work for us because it was just too much hands-on activity. So some families really like hands-on getting into things. Other families don't. This is a very hands-on type of course where each, throughout there's each of the investigations has an experiment that they're going to be doing. And so as they work through that, they have a student journal that they're doing. They're writing their observations in, and there's a teacher guide that kind of walks you through kind of what you need to be getting out of each investigation. This is great for teaching the scientific method and that type of thing. Just know that it's a lot of hands-on activity. Now, what's beautiful is the author of this, Carolyn Reeves, who's a member of this group as well, has taken and done these experiments and put them on YouTube. So you can find them on Pinterest. I will post a link here in this video to all the experiments. If your family needed help in how do we do these experiments, or possibly even you're just going through a season where you want them to have exposure to the hands-on experiment, the scientific method, observation journaling, you could watch the YouTube videos and then observe what's happening. So even though they weren't physically doing it, and that's not what's recommended, but even though it's not what necessarily the ideal, right? You could still implement some of this, do some of the experiments alongside, watch other experiments, fill in the journal, do that type of thing. So it does make this more doable for a family who likes the idea of hands-on activities, but maybe can't completely do it. Let's see. A second grader could do science starters. It would probably be, there's some things that they're just not going to be able to do. They may struggle with writing out the observations, so it may be more discussion, that type of thing. But the experiments are very, here's a box, we put 3 rubber bands over it, all with different tension, then we pluck them. Well, what do we learn from that? How can we, what observation and what is created there? So that gives a little bit of flexibility for even lower grades. And I've heard of a lot of families who will use it for like multiple grades because it's experiment based. So we're all going to learn from something from it. Let's see, approximately what age levels? We recommend it for grades 3 through 6 because of the writing, the observation, the cognitive, critical thinking skills. And as far as, yes, we've looked at selling the lab supplies, Mike, Shannon, Alexander. We actually had worked with somebody to put together a kit. The truth is the kits cost a couple $100 for a lot of household items. It'd be if you took every item needed and you went to Walmart and bought, styrofoam cups, paper plates, rubber bands, you name it. That's what it was going to cost. And it really wasn't a feasible sustainable thing because a lot of us can find 3 styrofoam cups or 3 rubber bands in a box. So it was more affordable, I think, to not have it all in one place. I think, let's see. Yeah, there's actually in the back of each book, like there's a master semester supply list, baking soda balloon, bottle, bubble wands, calculator, candle, coffee filters, container, copy penny, cornstarch, a cup, deep bowl, distilled water, flexible straws, fruit, funnel, glass container, glass eyedropper, graduated cylinder for pouring cup with metric units, a heating plate or other source of heat, heavy-duty aluminum foil, ice, labels, large container, liquid soap, magnet, magnifying glass, markers. See, a lot of these items you're going to find around the house, and you can just go gather them up. Trying to put those in a kit is going to be, it just wasn't even a feasible a thing. I mean, we like the idea, but it just was going to cost too much. So Science Starter is definitely a good solution, really hands-on, really fun courses, but because of the hands-on activities may feel for a family who doesn't necessarily like labs and that type of thing as if it's too much. But remember the YouTube videos, they've got a number of them for the book series. I think she's continuing to work through the other books, and it definitely makes this a much more interesting course. The other thing that I really like about this course is you're only doing 1 semester chemistry, 1 semester physics. So it's not the entire year of chemistry experiments. You're switching it up, and you can mix and match these. So there isn't an order. If you have a student who is very hands-on, wants to do physics type activities, very mechanical, then you could certainly do the energy component of this. You wouldn't have to do both. You could mix and match this to meet your needs. So, okay. Yeah. Okay. So for those who didn't notice or weren't here at the beginning, we have a new catalog that we're putting together that's coming out. So I'm proofing my way through it as I talk to you. Okay. Can you use the starters with God's design at a slower pace at the same time? I think you could. I mean, I don't know that they would go together well, but I would probably recommend choosing one or the other, especially the God's design also has hands-on activities. So they're going to get a lot of that type of thing as well. Okay, let's see. The elementary science, soil, sea, and sky. There's a tongue twister. Okay, that includes our bugs book, the ecology book, the big book of Earth and Sky, right here. The big book of Earth and Sky, I don't think I have one in my office. That actually unfolds up into, it's like a 10 or 13-foot panel that shows the atmosphere all the way down to the ocean, through the different rock layers into the center of the Earth. And students work panel by panel through that. So if you've used any of these courses, let us know. We're choosing a comment to give Education Does God Have an Opinion? We'll send that to you if we choose your comment. But I know there's a number of you who have used elementary science, sea, soil, sky. That's grades 4 through 6. It's a bit out of the box. It uses it's using real world books like the Bugs book, the Ecology book. The Ecology book is a challenging book, so they're getting some challenge out of it. But it's designed to be more applied knowledge, looking at the books and then drawing knowledge from it and that type of thing. Elementary Anatomy, written by Dr. Callentine, is a great approach. There's the nervous system, the respiratory system, and the circulatory system. That's great for some study of the human body. Some people will do that as an elective. If you have a student who is interested in anything life science, being a doctor, being a nurse, you want to kind of stimulate that interest, this would be a great course for that. Again, that's for grades 4 through 6. Okay, so that's our elementary solutions. We're always looking and looking for ways to do more courses. Now, we have a number of science resources, and you can mix and match and build your own from the resources that we have. We have a lot of people who do that. These are the organized subject sets. This is the plug and play, open and go type solutions. Let's see, why does it only do 3 body systems? It's a work in progress. These are the 3 books that have been written to date as far as the human anatomy goes. And so I guess the biggest question is, how do you do 3 years worth of human anatomy? And so that's a process right now that we're examining. We just got zoology. Zoology we just sold out of this week. Our elementary zoology, we are working on a replacement. In fact, let's see. I gave you, let me see. I'll give you a sneak peek at what book we're going to be actually using. We have, this is the book that will be, is being developed right now for the elementary zoology course. It's God's Big Book of Animals. And so that's being laid out right now by design, and that'll be really exciting. So, I'm looking forward to that course. Let's see. Yeah, for a 6th grader who wants to be a vet, definitely zoology would have been a great course. There may still be some available. We're leaving, I think, the digital edition of the zoology teacher guides in case you can get your hands on a World of Animals. And I know that some companies like Rainbow Resources may still have it in stock, and CBD may still have it in stock as well. So, okay. Let's see. So let's go to junior high science. In junior high science, we have the Intro to Astronomy course. That's based on the Stargazer's Guide to the Night Sky. Great if you have a student who's interested in astronomy, stars, planets, moons, that type of thing. That would be a great science course. Awesome Science, Historical Geology. That course is a little outside the box in that it uses a DVD set. There's 12 different field trips to different national parks from a biblical creationist standpoint. And so the Grand Canyon and Yellowstone are 2 of the books that are discussed. I think we're doing this. We're doing a trip this coming year to the Grand Canyon as a family. And so we're doing this course, I'm pretty sure, with one of our students. And then the Awesome Science DVDs with Noah Justice, he goes to each of these, and where in the Natural Museum where they're teaching millions of years ago, this is the fossil evidence, this is the geological evidence, he's saying this is the evidence from a biblical worldview through the perspective of creation, the flood, a catastrophe, and then a post-flood world. And so fascinating. These DVDs can be watched by the whole family. So even though for 7th to 8th grader, the course is designed for that, you could certainly incorporate that with younger grades as well, and the learning that they're going to get from that. So if you have a student that maybe doesn't enjoy the book learning quite as much and would do good with a DVD type course, that's one I would highly recommend, especially 7th to 8th grade, where you're preparing the student for a little bit more advanced concepts. Okay, the applied engineering course. This is one of our best-selling courses. It looks at basically God's design in nature and how science is looking at nature and beginning to try to copy it, because the creator was brilliant in his design, and we are getting our best technologies and developments by looking at science and copying the creator. And so it's a very good apologetic type science, and it does have hands-on activities as well that you could incorporate as experiments and labs and that type of thing. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to stop before I go into, let me go also. We also do have the Introduction to Anatomy and Physiology 1 and 2. This is a junior high course. This is written by Dr. Tommy Mitchell, a very respected young earth creationist at Answers in Genesis. And he is, the part 1 is doing the musculoskeletal system and the cardiovascular and respiratory systems. And book 2 is the nervous system and the digestive system. Now this, we have 2 more coming in the series, so there will be 3 total of this series. And definitely more geared towards junior high, even lower high school level as an elective, I would say. All right, so okay, before I get into high school general science stuff like that, I want to talk a little bit about the labs, because that's one of the questions we get asked a lot. It's something that we're always evaluating and discussing here. Labs are more than just experiments. Labs are where we teach the critical thinking through the scientific method. So let me just read. This would be the National Science Teachers Association. All of you qualify as being science teachers. So while you may not be part of the association, it's probably good to know what our peers are thinking. So this is the opening paragraph in regards to the integral role of laboratory investigations in scientific instruction. A hallmark of science is that it generates theories and laws that must be consistent with observations. So isn't that, that's awesome, because Darwinian evolution, the theory of macroevolution, the good to you model that is supposedly the law of science when it comes to origins, is not observable. And creation of life from nothing is not observable. So why that's called science is the big question we've always had. We believe that it's a faith-based theory, and that would be why. And so a lot of the science that we teach goes to say there's 2 theories, right? There's this evolutionary worldview, Big Bang, millions and millions of years. Anything can happen if you give enough time and chance. And then we have the biblical worldview that says there was a creator. We understand through the scripture how that creation occurred. We understand that there was a flood and that the flood drastically changed the world post-flood. And if you look at those 2 worldviews and we move forward in our science, we're going to come to different conclusions, definitely. So let me continue reading this. Much of the evidence from these observations is collected during laboratory investigations. A school lab investigation, also referred to as a lab, is defined as an experience in the laboratory, classroom, or field that provides students with opportunities to interact directly with natural phenomenon or with data collected by others using tools, materials, and data collection techniques. Throughout the process, students should have the opportunity to design investigations, engage in scientific reasoning, manipulate equipment, record data, analyze results, and discuss their findings. These skills and knowledge fostered by lab investigations are an important part of their inquiry. The process of asking questions, conducting experiments is a way to understand the natural world. While reading about science, using computer simulations, or observing teacher demonstrations may be valuable, they are not a substitute for lab investigations by students. So we would 100% agree that it's important for students to be hands-on, to have applied learning. The question becomes, how do we provide a curriculum that doesn't limit a family to labs, that gives families the opportunities to do labs, that type of thing. So in a lot of the courses, especially the early courses that were using real-world books, we provided some sample lab questions, but the courses themselves don't include labs. They're not built around a lab model. We're developing some courses that are, but there's a little, it's not hard to add labs to a course. It just takes a little bit of thought. So I spent about an hour this morning doing just a little bit of lab prep, if you will. And so let me just walk you through how you could add a lab to any course that you wanted to. Now, again, labs are to teach the scientific method. What is the scientific method? Pinterest is awesome. I never thought I would say that. Okay. Scientific method. What's the purpose? What is the problem? So we state the problem. We find out about the topic. We do a little research. Then we develop our hypothesis, where we predict the outcome of the problem. And then we do an experiment where you develop a procedure to test the hypothesis. Then we do the analysis. We record the results. And then we do a conclusion. Compare the hypothesis to the conclusion. Okay, so when we're talking about this is the scientific method, this is what we want students to know. It's observable science. Can we develop something in the natural world around us, and is there a problem that we see or something that we'd like to prove? Do a little bit of research. This is what we believe is true out of the research. Let's conduct some experiments to prove that, and then let's document that. And what they're doing with labs, they want to start preparing for the critical thinking skills in observable science, which is, again, really funny. And I think the more we learn about the scientific method as believers and as Christians, the more we realize the holes that there are in the theory of evolution as an explanation to origins. It's much easier to believe in a creator and a global flood than it is to believe in time, chance, and I guess time and chance would be the two biggest. Okay. So that's the process. If you do a search online for sample science lab reports, Pinterest had a number of them that you can see, but there's a number also just online. There's, not sure if you can see all of that, but on the lab reports, there's just templates that you can follow. The lab report, the name, what's the purpose? The purpose states the reason we're doing the experiment. Write down the problem that'll be investigated or experimented. In a few words, then we do the introduction. We know that you have a problem. What's the background behind it? The introduction. Materials in order to do this experiment. What materials are going to be used? Because you want to document all of this as a way of proving that you did the lab and that you thought through the experiment. And also, if somebody were to come across your lab in a future day and want to build on that, they might find that one of the materials you use contributed to the outcome of the lab, right? So it's kind of preparing integrity in the labs. Procedure, what procedure did you use? Make the statements past tense, be specific. Observations and data. An observation is measurable information that comes to you through your senses. And then the conclusion, where you put together a conclusion. So most lab courses are looking for like 60 hours of lab, half a year or half a credit of lab, in addition to the textbook teacher learning. So you can see how, as I'm going through one of these courses, in a high school level, and I come across something and a student says, this is a question I have. Well, can we do a lab to substantiate the information or to discredit the information? And again, online, there are a lot of different lab ideas. One that I came across really quick was the study of sediment. sedimentary rock in swamps, lakes, seas, oceans, etc. So you take a glass jar, fill it with rocks, pebbles, sand, soil, shake it up, set it there, and let it settle and see how it settles. And that's a good indication. It's a riot, really. That's how we study how coal is formed underwater in swamps and how different rock layers occur. So we can take a glass jar, we can shake it up in a whole lot of water in a big catastrophe that happens, let the water and the dust settle, and we see all these different rock layers laid down and as it settles. But then when we look at the Grand Canyon, we're supposed to believe that all of this is a process of a little river going through and carving it out. So just something like that, where when we hit a book on say, geology, and we can come up with some different experiments to substantiate what we're learning, right? So it's not ideal necessarily. We're looking at ways to incorporate labs to make it more open and go, but we also understand that as soon as we do get labs, like with science starters, one of the first criticisms is, well, there's just too much hands-on activities for me. And so you have the friction. And so it doesn't meet the need of everybody. And so our initial philosophy was, we're going to provide the base course, and then you can add to it. And you can develop labs, and we'll give you a couple of suggestions. Home Science Tools has a number of different kits that you can buy, like fossil kits and different things like that. I know Nature's Workshop is another that has a lot of those type of things. So, okay, so that's my kind of disclaimer on labs if you asked me about it at a convention. So now we're going to move into the high school level labs. Let's see. Are we working? Kathleen asked, are we working on labs for high school level science curriculum? Is that something you could see in the next few years? Yes, and I'll answer that when we come to the chemistry, because chemistry is our newest release of a very lab-based curriculum. So I'm not sure if I have it. Anyways, okay. So the first was general science. General science is based on the Wonders of Creation series. We have the first in the series covers ocean weather, astronomy, and mineral. General science 2 is more of an earth science covering geology, archaeology, cave, and fossils. Now, we've put that, originally it was for a high school level course. We have made that for a junior high level course because a lot of times families will do general science in grades 7 or 8. If you have a student who's not extremely science-minded, who probably won't be going to college for science but does need science credits, definitely they could do this course. It was asked in the questions, what would you do on a transcript? Usually your science credits, depending on the state, depending on what college you want to go to, and that's something that you need to investigate, but you would normally do something like biology, chemistry, physics, and then some kind of an applied science, life science, or astronomy. Those would be your 4 courses, and then most colleges want a certain amount of labs also associated with those. So, but if you're looking at like a community college, or you're looking at just getting the diploma and you're not necessarily needing a heavy science credit on your transcript, what I would probably recommend would be you could do Science 1, Science 2. So on Science 1 would be like General Science 1. Science 2, I would do Survey of Geology and Archaeology. As far as transcript building for high school, what we would recommend is visiting hslda.org. They have a whole section on homeschooling through high school and how to build transcripts and that type of thing. So I know, like, when it comes to this, you are the administrator of your school. And so as you develop the course load, you decide what materials teach the course. And so if I wanted to do Science 1, 2, 3, and 4, Science 1 is a biology, Science 2 is a chemistry, Science 3 is general science, or the equivalent of a general science. Science 4 would be the equivalent of a general science earth science. I can determine what that is. And I believe on our transcripts, that's how we have it listed, where it's like Science 1, 2, 3, and 4, or Science 101, Science 102, Science 103, Science 104. And then what is, so that would be the overall course name. What was the topic of the course would be biology, chemistry, physics or physical science, and the general science 1 or 2, or astronomy or anything like that. So a lot of times it feels more complicated than it has to be. But high school level should definitely be used, and it should definitely be, I think, the lab component to it, understanding the labs a little bit. Hopefully that helped, is how to add labs. So it'd be, Science 1 or 102 with labs. Now, I'm going to make sure Kristen reviews this video, because she'll probably have some comments as well. And if there's something different, I'll make sure she comments on that as well. So if you're here watching, I encourage you to comment. Let me know which science you're using, or if you're using one of the sciences that have worked well for your family. Love to hear from you. We're giving away a free copy of Education Does God Have an Opinion to one of the comments. Let's see. Could there be specific add-ons for these lab add-ons for these courses? Yes, and there are suggested labs in the course, but they're not formatted into the schedule. The coursework isn't prepared. What I would suggest is go and find a sample lab or science high school lab template to work from that follows a scientific method. If you are looking to prove something like, let's say, variation within a kind, that we're doing that, I want to prove that fruit flies remain fruit flies, even though there may be mutations or variations within the kind, they never became a spider in the course of our experiments. If you do some of just a Google search, there's a number of lab ideas available for high school level sciences that go along with these courses. Okay, let's see. Okay, so the General Science 2, this series, we've sold hundreds of thousands of the Wonders of Creation books. They're just fantastic books written by very respected individuals in the young earth science creation community. And we felt that we needed a way to be able to create a course that was engaging with students, gave them real world application, and then made it available so that it was easy for a parent to do. So with the General Science 1 and 2, if you use the teacher guide, there's a daily schedule at the beginning of the book, and it goes one book every 9 weeks. It goes through a book. And so for 36 weeks, they work through the 4 books, and that would be the equivalent of an earth science, geology, and archaeology. In it, there's questions, vocabulary, different activities. There are activities built into these. Let's see, activity: complete online research on cave systems around the world, compile information on at least one system per continent, print out photos of each, and use a world map to pinpoint their location. And when it comes to activities, again, you have the complete ability to do it or not to do it. These are some additional supplements that go in there. And then we also have quizzes, tests, answer keys, and everything that's needed for a course. And then, of course, when it's done, these books remain in your library for the next generation, but they are just awesome. Now, these books have multiple levels. So there's level 1 for 5 through 6, level 2, 7 through 8, level 3 for grades 9 through 11. You can adapt these a little bit to other grade ranges, but we've targeted it more to be in line with a high school level course. Okay, so that would be the general science. Let's see. The chemistry. Okay, chemistry is a new course that we came out with, Masterclass Chemistry. It would be for grades 10 through 12. Algebra would be a prerequisite to that. That is a very hands-on lab-based course. You almost have to do the labs to understand the material. It's very creation-based. It's very applied learning. There's a lot that you're going to get in everyday life that would apply to this chemistry or the study of matter through the masterclass chemistry. But it is a lab-based course. And so it's not the kind of course that you can buy, read through the text, skip the labs, and still get a lot of value out of the course. The science kit for the chemistry is available on Home Science Tools. We've posted it here in the group. I will also post it in this video. It is about $250 for that kit. I know somebody had mentioned that the price of the kit was high. What I'm going to say, science kits aren't inexpensive. This is a very legitimate science course with a very legitimate lab. It uses science science tools, if you will, so that a student knows what the beaker is. They know what all of the different components of a lab kit are. If you do any investigation for lab kits for BJU, Switched On Schoolhouse, Apologia, a number of the major science kits, you're going to see that they cost about the same. Some of them are as high as $400 down to like $150. What I would say, this would be great for a group of families to buy one kit and share it and do observations together. It'd be great for co-ops. I think it'd be great for a family who has multiple students that are going to go through the course. We kept the course, the entire master's class chemistry course in the catalog is $51.78, which is ridiculously low. So when you combine that with the course, the cost of the lab kit for a legitimate high school lab, a science course with lab, I think it's definitely within range. And we have a video that goes through the entire there's a video here that most of these courses have been discussed at length individually, but I know there's been some questions and confusion, so I wanted to hit them all in a kind of a broad brush. But there is a video for the science. Okay. Life Science, Origins, and Scientific Theory. That is the high school course that has a couple DVDs that go with it. We just upgraded the teacher guide on that course. Highly recommend this course, especially if you have students that are going to go to university where they're going to be presented with the theory of evolution, origins outside of Scripture, when you really investigate the science. And I know that we have some moderators who are just reading this for personal growth and are just, there's so many questions that they have and really good information. You just don't realize how programmed we are in a school setting that doesn't start with a biblical worldview. So highly recommend that. We have 2 students that have completed that course and have both stated that that is one of their favorite high school courses that they took. It's just a very good, creative thinking way of approaching the study of life science and origins. Okay. Survey of Astronomy, one of our best-selling courses. If you have a student who's interested at all in astronomy, that course is highly recommended. A lot of the books that are here are built around books that were written by Jason Lisle. If you are familiar with the Creation Museum and have ever gone into the planetarium, Jason is the one who is responsible for the creation of that experience. He is also a brilliant speaker. He's a astrophysicist, and here's a sneak preview of something. We are in the process of laying out a new logic course for junior high by Jason, and so stoked by it. Jason does a fantastic job of explaining logic, especially from the perspective of worldview and origins. And so that course, I think there's going to be a lot of parents that are excited about taking that course, but definitely for a junior high student, we're hoping that's going to be available in the fall. So we've got the manuscript and they're in the process of laying it out. Jason has also written other books. I think he wrote, I know he wrote Ultimate Proof, Discerning Truth. He's just a brilliant author. So Survey of Astronomy, highly recommended. And on a transcript, that would be listed as an astronomy course. Survey of Science, History, and Concepts. That would be almost a general science. What I would do on a transcript with that would be, again, something like Science 101, 102, 103. The topic is Survey of Science, History, and Concepts. Advanced Pre-Med Studies and Advanced Pre-Med Studies. Okay, so this course, a lot of families use this as a biology course. Advanced Pre-Med sounds very intimidating, but let me tell you what happened. So we had a basic pre-med, which was very simple and only used a couple of the books, and then we had the advanced pre-med, which was designed more for high school. We no longer have the basic pre-med, but because of all the catalogs and all the vendors that are selling it, advanced pre-med that name has stuck. It is a good introduction to the human body, to medicine. If you have a student that's at all interested in nursing, I think missions work, understanding germs and disease, the history of medicine, any medical field, first aid, anything like that. If they intend to be a mother where they're going to encounter different ER visits, doctor encounters, vaccinations, you name it, I think this would be a really good course for them to take as a biology course. As far as labs go, there are some recommendations in there that you could do. Again, it doesn't have labs built into the course. It's something you would have to develop and add. Logic course on a transcript. Okay, so the logic course is really, I think it's actually, we are going to put it to 9th grade. I would do it as an elective, and that would be logic. I would elective in critical thinking or logic. Okay. So that covers the range of the science. Now, when you go through our catalog, or if you look online, there's a couple things you're going to find. You're going to find some older PLPs. PLP was called the Parent Lesson Planner. It was our first generation at developing courses in 2012. And a lot of those, the books have changed. We didn't update them. They're still available because there's inventory of them. But if you want to know what the latest, greatest is and what we support and where we're growing it, it's what's in the catalog. So if you get the free copy of the catalog, if you've gotten an order and the catalog is there, when you see product there, that's what we recommend you choose from. The other courses are great. I think there's one course in oceanography, which uses 2 books, the ocean book and another book, they were half credit courses. And since then, the ocean book has been updated, the teacher guide was updated, and it became part of the general science course. So as a company, we continue to take your feedback, the feedback from other users, we put it together and try to improve the product continually. So those products, even though you may see them available, those would be kind of first generation products. And if you find a good deal on one, or you have the books already and you needed a teacher guide, they're a good solution, but they're not necessarily the best solution. The best solution would be whatever is actively being promoted in the catalog. Okay. The other thing that I wanted to add is we found some free downloads and that type of thing on masterbooks.com. So in the publishing world, we get the idea sometimes that it'd be a really good idea to include a free study guide. So we'll put free downloadable study guide at masterbooks.net. And when this book was created and published, masterbooks.net was not anywhere near what masterbooks.com is. Now it actually forwards to the .com website. But when you go to that site and you find the area for a free downloadable study guide, you're going to find a very rudimentary basic study guide. It's not the course that Masterbook has. It's not really an item that is supported anymore by Masterbooks because we have upgraded the support of that product to a full curriculum. And so you may find them, but they're not necessarily going to be what you would want to use for your homeschool. So good resource. You certainly can give you some ideas. You can use it, but I just want to clarify a little bit that you're better off going with the material that you're going to find in the survey of geology and archaeology when you're doing this course, as opposed to trying to do it by building from the study guides. Okay, let's see. Okay, logic on a transcript. I think I answered that. I want to do pre-med myself. I tell you what, so many of these courses are just awesome. We have a lot of moms reporting that they're doing it. And, you know, science has such an intimidation factor, right? We just think of that intimidation of walking into a room and knowing that we've got to get good grades on something that is already overwhelming us, where science is just a very detailed study and observation of information. And so the courses that we have are very applied learning, means it's hands-on knowledge, real-world books. How do we apply that to the scientific study? As far as adding labs, I'm hoping maybe we can even develop a little bit of a template that you could download and use if you wanted to add a lab or create your own lab. This would be kind of fill-in-the-blank labs. I've got that on my desk. I just haven't put it together. So if that would be helpful, be sure to let us know what you think of that as well. Okay, so again, we're going to answer any questions that you have on the course. I hope this was helpful. And we're always looking for topics to do for Tuesdays that will be a blessing to the group and that will help everybody understand the product and the product line a little bit better. Be sure to comment. Let us know what sciences you've used, what you love. And we're giving away a free copy of Education Does God Have an Opinion? And a biblical apologetic on Christian education and homeschooling. Just a great read that will strengthen your faith in what you're doing, to know that God really does have an opinion on education, and that homeschooling is really an awesome way to fulfill the opinion that he has. Outside of that, on Thursday, we're going to talk a little bit more in the teaching tips about strengths. And so we're going to talk about the individual strengths, and I'm going to put a link up that you can take a personality profile and understand your personality a little bit better. What makes you tick? What are some of the challenges that you have? And that type of thing. Again, we're not all created equal. So anytime you take a group like this, put us all together, what works for our family isn't necessarily going to work for your family. So as we know that, we can give each other permission to do things our own way, and we can give each other permission for growth. Elements of faith. Yes, let me talk about that. I don't think I have it here. Elements of Faith actually is in the flash sale today for $2.99, if there's any left. Elements of Faith is an incredible book. It's almost written like a devotional, where it goes through the elements and discusses the element and then ties it in to a biblical principle. There was a tragedy in the author's family after he wrote the first one, and that series is on pause. And so it's a great resource. It's a great add-on. It would be great in a morning basket. It's not part of the curriculum. So you could incorporate it. You could absolutely use it alongside, but it's not comprehensive enough. It doesn't include all the elements because that was just book one. And then the series has been stopped until further notice. So it's an unbelievable book. We wish we could have the second part, because I think it would make a great supplement, or even build on it to make a great chemistry course for a non-science minded student. But everybody who comes in contact with that book loves it. So again, it is in the flash sale. I don't know how many copies are left. I think there were 20 or so that were in the flash sale today for that. But hopefully that answers that question. And you can see previews of it online, as with all of our courses. Between the books, worksheets, science, is that enough? I'm doing the course with an older student. Should I add extra readers, no booking pages? We've designed all of our courses for 180 days of instruction, or over 36-week period. So the courses are set up to give 1 credit of science credit. As far as supplementing, adding, that type of thing, I say that's your discretion. It's your school, you're the teacher. If you feel that you need to thicken the course up a little bit or make the course a little bit more challenging, then we encourage you to do that. If you feel it's sufficient for what the outcome that you want for your school, then we encourage you to do that. Okay, Heather said that it's sold out of the Elements of Faith. It's not a very expensive book. It's definitely worth looking at, especially just check the previews out on Elements of Faith. You'll be impressed. Let's see. So as far as sufficient enough, yes, we believe it is sufficient enough. It qualifies 120 hours of instruction because we do the 36-week, 180 hours of instruction. But in our daily schedule. But again, we leave it to your discretion to decide if you need to do something more challenging. And again, hslda.org for their high school transcripts to understand a little better and how to homeschool through high school is a great resource, and we'll post that. We'll post videos to the science starters, and there's a couple of other things I was going to post. So, all right. Well, thank you guys. And I look forward to continuing the discussion with you online. And any questions, comments, concerns you have, please feel free to share it here. You're also welcome to contact us through the support desk, masterbooks.com. And of course, you're always welcome to call us 800-999-3777. And I'm happy to discuss any concerns that you have as well. God bless you. God bless your homeschool. We look forward to continuing on the journey together. Bye-bye.